We'll call the meeting to order.
Fire. Paschal. Tompkins. Marshall.
Here.
Wagner. Here. Witzel.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Spiros. Here. O'Reilly.
Here.
Hendler.
Here.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item C, public hearing, special assessments, including mill in place with ditching on North Broadway Avenue. Would anybody like to address that issue? Anybody like to address that issue? Would anybody like to address that issue? Seeing none, we'll move on to item D, public comment period, correspondence. At this time, I will recognize those members of the public who have indicated a desire to address the council. Upon recognition by me, persons may address the council, first stating their name and address. The council may act on emergency matters included by members of the public. Any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item E, approval of minutes, January 11th, 2022, closed session, and April 26th, 2022, regular meeting. Mike Fire motions and Nick Paschal seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Oh,
We
Do a
had
voice,
used
do a
it.
voice vote.
oh, okay.
Was-
Okay, sorry.
That's right.
Fire? Paschal?
Yes.
Varsho?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Oh my. Help me. Witzel?
Yes.
Sorry. Fisher?
Yes.
Spiros?
Yes.
O'Reilly?
Yes.
Handler?
Yes.
See if is on.
And Tompkins is on now?
See if she is.
And Tompkins, are you here?
She called me and said she was going to zoom in. Okay.
Okay, maybe
We're good.
Alderman Tompkins will join us. So we have 9 yeas and 1 missing alderperson. So then the motion carries. Item F, staff updates, introduction of new employee, Jordan Munger, accounting manager, presented by Jennifer Solinsky, finance director.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Jordan Munger, who is our new accounting manager. The position was vacated back in November when the former finance director left, and I assumed that role. Jordan comes to us from the clinic. He holds a bachelor's degree in accounting and is a CPA. Thank you.
Welcome, Jordan. Our next staff update, report on taxi complaints, presented by Steve Bark, city administrator.
Thank you. You may recall, at least those of you who were on the council at the time, back in, I believe it was the fall, that there was a conversation about the taxi service, and it came up that there've been a couple of issues, complaints where they resolved. We kind of agreed at that time to maybe have like a twice a year kind of update as to what we're experiencing. And Amy Krogman, our administrative specialist, human resources assistant, keeps a log of the calls that she gets, and she tries to connect the dots between the person with a concern and the provider, who is in Viroqua, Running Incorporated. So this is just a brief report of what we've seen in the last few months. Actually, it's for the calendar year 22. We have received relatively few complaints on Marshfield Public Transit, and that's really fairly common in recent years. Initially, I think I mentioned this last time I was talking about this, there were some bumps in the road as they learned some of the streets and some of the places where people needed to be picked up at the various locations, but that kind of has gotten better over time. Anyway, for the first 4 months of 2022, we received a total of 6 complaints. They've been as follows. All but one has at least referenced wait times as part of it, where they felt that they had to wait longer than they would like to be picked up, either from a specific incident or just in general, they felt that the wait times were maybe too long. One expressed concern about the manner in which her spouse was treated when he was picked up. Another was asking why cab drivers don't help the individual get out of the vehicle and to the place of their destination, to the business, to the front door of the company or the clinic or wherever they're going. Why don't they provide that service? All the issues and concerns were addressed by Marshfield Public Transit. There's mixed responses, as you can probably imagine, from the complainants. With the wait times, Public Transit reported that there was no record of one of the complaints. A couple of other times they were kind of swamped or overwhelmed, and that's why it took a little bit longer. And in a couple of cases, they discussed the options with people about when they call and how the pickups occurred to try and get it straightened out for the future. Regarding the treatment issue, that complaint was dealt directly with the staff person involved. And on assistance, the public transit folks let the complainant know of what the limits are that they can do. And maybe we've talked about this before, that a shared ride taxi service under the federal grant program is limited, that you cannot walk people into buildings. You cannot, the idea of full service is not something that they're allowed even to do. So the idea that they let this person off at the corner, let them get out onto the, from the curb onto the sidewalk and didn't walk them farther is in keeping with what they're told to do. So that one was no problem. So all things considered, it would appear that Marshfield Public Transit does very well with respect to the volume. If you look at the many tens of thousands of rides that they give, that there are that few complaints, at least that we hear about. There may be others that we don't know about. So we feel pretty good about the service. Are there any questions or issues that the council would raise? Otherwise, we would continue to monitor this and try to report periodically, especially if anything is going the wrong direction.
Councilman Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot of people don't know this, but the State District Transit Office, or not transit, excuse me, Transportation Office is down in Wisconsin Rapids. And what I'd like to know, I have been saying for some time that I think Marshfield is outgrowing the shared ride system. And the argument has always been, well, we can only get subsidy for that. We can't get subsidy for anything else. And so therefore we've got to stick with the shared ride. That's been an argument that's gone on since long before you were here, Steve. But basically what I'd like to ask the administration to do is make contact with the district office and ask them if somebody can come and give a short presentation to the council about what public transit aids might be available and what types of systems might be available for subsidy.
Can definitely do that. I know that I've seen one study that was done before, at least at a high level, in terms of looking at buses here, and that just wasn't feasible. But
that's all it was.
I'd be glad to have somebody come and talk about that.
I would love to hear it too. Thank you.
Anyone else? That was on to item G. Mayor's comments. Employee recognition. Christopher Berg, Police Department, 5/13/2007, 15 years. Congratulations, Christopher. Jason Parks, Police Department, 5/20/2002, 20 years. Congratulations, Jason. And David Burley, Engineering Division, 5/21/12/2012, 10 years. Congratulations, David. Item H, council comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to I, reports from commissions, boards, and committees. Constant agenda. Meeting minutes, reports. Joint City Plan Commission and Economic Development Board, April 27th, 2022. B, Historic Preservation Commission, May 2nd, 2022. C, Board of Public Works, May 2nd, 2022, approval of engineering services, Adler Road Trail Project. 2, approval purchases of mini excavator, Parks and Recreation Department. Item D, Judiciary and License Committee, May 3rd, 2022. Item E, Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee, May 3rd, 2022. Number 1, approval resolution number 2022-09, continuing appropriations. Number 2, authority refiling vacant associate planner position. Item 3, establish council meeting dates for 2023 budget process. And finally, number 4 under E, approve request for variance from policy number 3.510, vacation. Receive, place on file, approving recommended actions. Motion by Paschal. Second by Fisher. Any discussion? Amy, would you take roll call, please?
Fire? Facial? Marshall,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Spiros. O'Reilly,
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
Seeing no action, it's been approved. Item L, presentation, proposed project at Marshfield Mall, introduced by Steve Barg, City Administrator, presented by Ned Brickman, Midland Management LLC.
Thank you. As we have seen in the past, Ned Brickman has been here before this body. I think it was in 2019, talking about some ideas to improve and give a good upgrade to the Marshfield Mall. He's here to do that again tonight. I think we all know that malls have had a lot of challenges, not just in Wisconsin, but across the country. And so we look forward to hearing what Ned is going to share as far as some possible ideas on how to move our mall forward. Ned?
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. My name is Ned Brickman. My company's Midland Management, and we are part owner of the mall. We became part owners of the mall about 4 years ago essentially with the Fonte family, who operates the Ashley Furniture here. We got involved in this property, I think about 4 years ago. And the idea, and I came here back then and told everyone that our plan was to redevelop the mall, that malls today are small town enclosed malls, really any enclosed malls have kind of had their day. And something needed to be done to revitalize the property and kind of look toward the future. The mall as it sits is just really not viable. And I think most people understand that. So we came in a few years ago and we had a plan, which we thought was a good plan. Unfortunately, at the time, retailers were afraid of Amazon. They were afraid that the word around was that retail was dying. And so we just couldn't get enough traction from enough retailers to create the synergy we needed to do this redevelopment. There was interest, but retailers at that time weren't aggressive. And then, of course, COVID happened, and we sat here for another 2 years. But now what's really happened here and lots of places is people have realized retail is not dead, and people are still wanting to shop. People are still wanting it, that Amazon hasn't taken over the world, and this is actually still a viable thing for the future. So a lot of these stores have realized that, like I said, retail isn't dead. COVID is over, and they realize that they haven't opened a new store in maybe 5 years, many of them. So now they've come back to us here and in other places and want to open stores. So all of a sudden, maybe 6 months ago, there was tremendous interest in this project. So this is the plan that we are working with to essentially, I think you all know, where the mall area, the old Young, the old Penny, and it's to redevelop the mall, essentially get rid of the interior space and turn it into large box retail. These three spaces are all committed, corporately approved, pretty much done deals, assuming that we have the financing to do this. We've kind of left the names out because it's not my place to stand here and tell everybody who they are. I'll let them do that when the time comes. But these are all committed, as is essentially this space. This area here would be the relocation of tenants that are already in the mall. So those are committed as well. So there really is almost the only space that today is not committed, and there's no shortage of people that want that space. So we're pretty confident about this. We're pretty excited about it. We're very excited about it. And we think we have the opportunity, and timing is everything, as we found out 4 or 5 years ago, that right now we can kind of catch lightning in a bottle and we can get this done, and we can convert what exists today, which isn't working for anybody, into something that we can all be proud of and happy about and that can serve the community This will, when we're done, this will be a brand new shopping center, at least by appearance. The parking lot, which is a disaster right now, will be redone. And we think we can bring in some these and others who will serve the community and look toward the future. The outlots, showed here, that's still a little bit in process, but the plan there would be, there's certainly a shortage here of food and restaurants and things like that. So the plan would be that those out parcels would be, what we call fast casual restaurants. And they all know there's a demand here. So that's kind of our plan. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes, Alderman Varsho?
So this would be, all those stores would have just direct walking in from the parking lot. You're not going from store to store. This is like what they have up in Wausau by the Best Buy, the Dunham's and stuff, or even in Marshfield by Dunham's. It's walking in, walking out, kind of like Kohl's has now and Harbor Freight.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Again, interior mall space just doesn't really for anybody.
Perfect,
So, yeah.
thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Witzel?
I believe the plan you brought to us about 4 years ago really kind of involved significant demolition and then rebuilding the specified boxes, if you will, for those individuals. This looks like there's less of that involved and maybe just gutting this thing and then building within the framework of what's there. Is that the plan?
Yeah, good memory. Actually, yeah, that was the plan at the time. This big space here, really just combining what's already there. The Chinese buffet right now juts out a little bit. And the storage comes out. But this is all.
And you said you already have commitments for all of these spaces?
Yes. Well, for the big space, for these three, 90%. And these again would be relocations.
Okay, I was going to ask what happens to those individuals that are already in there, including the buffet.
The buffet, the plan is moved right here. Some of these things aren't completely done yet. Bath and Body is one that we really want to keep, and the plan would. So that's.
So it's sort of a penciled out drawing. It's not in ink yet.
Well, it's not an ink because we're here tonight. I mean, we can't.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we have the large leases are all approved through they're corporately approved. Leases are out. It's just, we're just waiting. Our plan is our hope, assuming everything goes the way we want it to, would be to start construction this fall. Most of this is interior work, like you say, so we can work through the winter on most of this and deliver spaces to tenants in spring. And then they would open, late spring of next year.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ned.
Thank you.
Next up, presentation update from Marshfield Clinic Health Systems, introduced by Steve Barg, City Administrator, presented by MCHS representatives.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, some of you remember back in the fall, we had that issue with the Skywalk where the clinic was looking to extend a connection between the East Wing and the hospital. Had a lot of talk and finally came to a resolution on that. But as part of it, I really have to commend the Chief Administrative Officer, Pat Board, who's here tonight, for his work in trying to say, look, beyond the Skywalk, let's work together, let's talk more, let's collaborate and cooperate where we can. Since then, there have been a number of really good discussions. I've presented a city update over at the clinic's Community Advisory Board. Pat and I have been meeting on a monthly basis to talk about ways that we can work together. And there's a joint planning team that's met twice now to look at opportunities to try and improve the situation for both entities and the entire community. We've talked about a variety of things, including housing and amenities and whatnot. So this is another step. The clinic has committed that they would twice a year do updates to the city, to the council as to what they're doing, the status of projects and activities. And Pat is here to do that tonight. I'm very pleased with it. Take it away, Pat.
Great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity to be back here. I recall, I think it was almost 8 months to the date, and that we had a little rocky thing with our connector, as we do something in healthcare called a root cause analysis. So if things don't go as what we planned, they don't have the right outcome, we kind of take a look back and say, gosh, what could we have done better? And I think our assessment of the root of the issue is communication. We really didn't have set up a routine, thoughtful plan communication. So this is part of that. And I'm really appreciative of Steve and the team to work with us and allow the opportunity. So have a team of us tonight. So first up will be Dr. Jamal Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed is one of our ENT physicians as part of our health system. He's going to give you a little bit of a clinical update. So we do a lot of unique things here in the medical center, things that are not commonly done either in the state or frankly in the country, and give you a little taste of that. It'll probably, people that are really, really, really squeamish, he might tell them to avert their eyes just a little bit on some of the cases. And then Dr. Brian Herneman is also going to give, he and I will split up a little bit of the more administrative updates. So Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Pat. And thanks, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the council. So my name is Jamal. I'm one of the ENT head and neck surgeons over at Marshfield Clinic. I work mainly in the hospital and the clinics in Marshfield, and then at some outreach centers through the system. And I'm part of a multi-subspecialty ENT department. We have fellowship-trained head and neck ENT physicians, as well as some outstanding support staff for all issues related to the head and neck. I came to Marshfield, but before that, I was in the UW Madison for microvascular surgery training, and before that, University of Miami. And the weather's finally catching up to us from there. So just a little bit about ENT, otolaryngology, and head and neck surgery. It's a very broad field. It's a wide-ranging specialty where we treat all kinds of disorders of the head and neck. And as you can imagine, there's some very precious anatomy and real estate, so surgical treatment for diseases of this area has a very profound effect on quality of life and function. So there's a direct relationship between anatomy and the function. So for things that affect, for example, the mouth, the oral cavity, that'll directly affect speech and swallow. And for each different part, nose, thyroid, parathyroid glands, your voice box, all of these things, it affects how you present yourself to the world and how you enjoy life. And so this is crucially important that we think about these things when addressing diseases. Within ENT, there are subspecialties for each of these individual parts, and a subspecialty training really helps get the best outcomes for patients. So for the ear alone, there are subspecialties for middle ear surgery, skull-based surgery, and we're very lucky to have a fellowship-trained surgeon for that. And the same goes for facial plastic surgery and my own specialty of head and neck surgery. So head and neck surgery is the subspecialty that performs the major surgeries that involve the head and neck. So these can include benign and malignant tumors, dealing with complications of radiation damage to the head and neck, dealing with cancers of the head and neck surgically, and then fixing all of these defects. And one of the things that I think about is this old house where, we're the contractors that you want for the big jobs and that involve fixing these things. And we come with our toolbox of different things for small little fixer-uppers or very large projects. And one of these concepts is a reconstructive ladder. We start kind of small at, not having to do much, and then the techniques get more and more complicated the higher up the ladder you go. So for example, up there's a small lesion next to those teeth in that picture labeled number 1, and then doing absolutely nothing, just giving it some time and careful observation, it slowly heals. And that's all you need to do for that. Whereas another example further up on the ladder, there's an example of someone who's missing half of their tongue. And in order to fix that, we can take tissue from the forearm and make it into a new tongue and then implant it into place. So that's a transplant of the person's own tissues, and that's called a free flap surgery. Microvascular free flap reconstruction is one of the most complex and technically challenging types of reconstructive surgery out there, and it requires subspecialty training, and we're lucky to offer this at the Marshfield Clinic as well. The basic concept is that there are parts of the body that you could use to fix whatever you need. If you need bone to make a jaw, if you need soft tissue to make a tongue, etc., there are specialized parts of the body that are suitable for that. And it takes training to figure out how to make that, bring it up to the head and the neck, and then connect the blood vessels that supply these tissues under the microscope. And that picture there is holding a tiny suture with thread that's more than 100 times thinner than a human hair. So it requires a lot of training to get the outcomes. But at the end of the day, we have an artery connected and a vein connected, and the tissue is alive and it's able to heal. So here are some case examples of that we just performed in the last couple of years. And I'm very lucky to work with outstanding colleagues in the facial plastic surgery department, Dr. Morrow. We have Dr. R.T. Rao in oral surgery as well, and my partners in ENT, Dr. Andrew Urquhart and Nathan Schreiber for some of these cases. So one of these is a very pleasant 87-year-old woman who unfortunately is dealing with a recurrent tumor of her oral cavity. And this is how it looked pretty much on the morning of surgery, where it had erupted very rapidly over the next month and basically took over most of her oral cavity and the floor of her mouth. I'll spare you the more gory picture, but essentially at the end of that, we were able to remove all of the tumor. And sometimes that's limited by what you're able to fix. So if you know you can fix anything, you are able to then properly treat cancers in this area. And this is what she looks like 4 months after surgery when we're able to do a few touch-up surgeries. But basically she has a jaw now. She's able to eat, drink, and speak well. And she's doing quite well more than a year out from surgery. And second case is a gentleman with a massive tumor of the left mandible. He was treated before with 2 surgeries, which unfortunately did not solve the problem. There were more conservative removals and the tumor recurred. So you can see part of this large tumor through his mouth. It has an indentation in the middle from when he keeps biting on it. And he's not able to close his mouth at all because this tumor is just so large. And he has a nice shaggy beard to help cover it. But this is the CT scan of that tumor. It's made out of bone. It's hard as a rock. And it looks like he's smuggling a grapefruit under his beard. So that's what it looks like once you remove it. It's most of his jaw and the teeth. And what we were able to do is use 3D printing to create these custom cutting guides for making precise cuts like a jigsaw puzzle of the bone and other parts of the body, and then make that into a new jaw for this gentleman. And then he's able to close his jaw now. Tumor's completely gone. Turns out part of it was malignant. So he got a radical resection that was effectively able to treat this tumor, and he's doing quite well. So appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone. And these are some of the things that we're able to do at the Marshfield Clinic. We have subspecialty fellowship trained ENT surgeons. We have a passion for good functional outcomes for our patients and a multidisciplinary approach to our head and neck cancer patients. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Jamal.
Thank you very much.
Truly amazing work there, Dr. Ahmed, it really is. And to be able to provide services of that specialty level at the hospital here in Marshfield and see those patients at the clinic, we do depend on our recruiting department to continue to bring those folks that have that very specialized training to Marshfield to be able to provide the care here. And they're doing really a very good job. And this year already, at this point in the year, we've already signed 35 physicians for this year. or 35 physicians and APCs this year. We've already have 5 signed for next year. It's kind of fun when we get to see some of our local folks return to town. So Tony DeVries grew up in Marshfield, son of Edney DeVries. He's returning to join the radiology department. We also have a number of folks that have trained in our health system through our Division of Education that are returning. We have five former medical residents and 4 current medical residents and fellows. They'll be transitioning into their specialty care roles. So neat to see that folks are willing to stick around and return to Marshfield and call this their home and place to practice. We've added physicians or APCs to 24 different of our specialties up at the campus. Now shifting gears, just to give you an update of where we're at with some of the investments and improvements that we're making on the campus. Some of these are long overdue, and some of them help with some functional aspects of patient care. And the first one is near and dear to me as an emergency physician, the new ER and urgent care, which will be opening up in October. And this project was undertaken for a couple of reasons. One of those was that it's a patient experience issue. So the ER is in need of an update. Also right now, if you have the ER and urgent care on separate areas of the campus, patients are sometimes confused about which area they should be seeking care. Should they go to urgent care? Should they go to the emergency department? And not infrequently, we see people go to urgent care with serious medical conditions like a heart attack and then need to come urgently to the emergency department. The goal here is to have one combined triage area. The person can enter there, discuss their concerns with a nurse, and then be directed to the right department. So having those 2 departments together will be able to accomplish that. The other is an efficiency piece. We do have a number of duplicated services on the campus that will be able to run more efficiently by having the 2 departments working together. A couple pictures up on the slide. First one is the trauma elevator on the left there. And so what that is 2 large trauma elevators that will take the patients down from the garage to the emergency department, which will now be on the 1st floor. So the ambulance garage stays on the 2nd floor. There'll be 2 elevators sitting there waiting at the ambulance garage to take the patients quickly down to the emergency department. And then on the right panel, there is a picture of one of our new trauma bays. There'll be 4. Overall, there'll be 38 beds in the department. So really a large department. In fact, the square footage of the department is greater than some of that of the new hospitals that we're putting up. So a big department. Also, new entrance comes with that. So on the left, you see off the parking ramp, if you look down to the 1st floor, that'll be the new entrance for the ED urgent care. So patients will be dropped off underneath the structure. So covered drop off, which will also be nice. And then the entire area there does get a facelift from some of the finishes too. Adjacent to the emergency department space then is the hospital lobby. So the hospital lobby also getting an upgrade, both in finishes, then some functionality too. We'll have a built-in coffee area and snack area. It'll be adjacent and can flow into the ED urgent care. So patients will be able to be in either space if they're waiting in the ER getting care. And then the connector project. So that has been a project that's been very looked forward to be able to improve our patient experience. Right now, we have inpatient care on both sides of the campus, and the patients sometimes need to traverse the clinic lobby to be in their hospital beds to get care on the other side of the campus. So it's not a great experience having to come through the clinic lobby, which is a very public space. So this will be an offstage area to be able to get patients from one end of the campus to the other and help them get the care that they need. I'll turn it over to Pat to talk about our last couple of projects that we have in motion.
Right. Not too many more minutes here. All right, so as we finish up the connector there, as Brian, the last kind of set of pictures, so as on the far left there is, if you go into the east wing of our hospital, and you climbed up this new elevator tower that's being constructed. So if you're looking back out west from that area, the next is street level view, and the final, we have a topping off ceremony tomorrow where that final beam for all the connector pieces are going to go in. They delayed it today thinking the weather was going to be bad, and look what happened. Probably be bad tomorrow. So Dr. Ahmed, he's getting a new NT department. So we had clinics been there for quite a period of time. Technology has changed. There's more equipment that needs to be in rooms. Space gets constrained. So the department's undergoing a complete renovation. So the room on the left will be a new exam room, procedure room. One of the things that's really different in medicine today and more patient participation in your care. So what will allow is for people to have endoscopic examination, looking up somebody's sinuses, rather than the doctor just kind of having that information to themselves, be able to show the patient what's going on and what they're doing and what might be done to help address their problem. Next is just a new nursing station. Oral surgery, we have a really good oral surgery area and department. However, it's kind of buried in some parts of our facility in which we'd like to get it out by itself. So if you imagine the east wing of the building, the hospital, and we have a hyperbaric chamber. So if you walk into the ambulatory surgery area and took a right, the roof above that has shelved space. And so we're relocating our oral surgery department and operating areas in there. So left, you can see the artist rendering. To the right, you can see how it's starting to take shape in our reception and waiting areas. That'll be also ready in about October. And then one of the real big projects, and it's, we have about 2 million square feet of space on the campus. And we've been working extremely diligently to say, okay, what are our next moves that we need to make in terms of the renovation and restoration of our campus? So just for orientation, you can see what Brian was speaking about on the far left-hand side of the screen, the new urgent care. On the far right is that east wing and the connector and our medical offices. So it requires a fair amount of work with architects, with engineers, digging into buildings, finding out what's there, what can be rehabbed, what can't be rehabbed. So we're not quite there yet, but just suffice to say, a lot of work and energy going on to figure out how's that campus going to lay out over the course of the next 20 to 40 years. And finally, Steve really covered a lot of this, and I just extremely grateful. Steve and I are able to intercept issues when we meet on a monthly basis, share what's going on respectively. So in case there's something I might not think is a big deal, and Steve said, "Oh yeah, GPAT, that's helpful to know." So it's just that constant and persistent communication that iron out some issues. We mentioned that there is a team that's working together. You can see the members there. And the key initiatives, Steve quickly mentioned that obviously we all want to continue to do all the great things, including like the mall that I just learned a little bit more about, but what can we contribute to help make Marshfield an even better place to live? We have housing issues. We bring in, as you saw, that's just 35 so far, new providers to this community. Was roughly maybe 40 last year, and we probably expect the same amount before. So having the right amount of housing, type of housing, really important to us. And then, inviting, how do we contribute to the city itself? How can we have more involvement as an organization? I believe that is it. And just pause, take any questions people might have. And thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Any questions from the council? A lot to absorb, right?
I have a question.
Yes, Rebecca.
It's actually Natasha.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see it on the screen. Yeah.
It's okay. I think it's really exciting that, first of all, it's just great to hear that presentation and exciting to see this new collaborative with these people talking together. I was just wondering if you have, as a group, talked about where you would like to invest in Marshfield. Are there any plans for economic development or parks and rec or places for healthy lifestyle? And have you guys talked about a budget for that?
We have not got that far. Great question, though. We've really done a lot of the organizational work. So I would say our first meeting was saying, gosh, what's important to each of us? Then from that first meeting, that really allowed us to document kind of a shared set of initiatives we thought were important. So the next meeting that we had was saying, okay, let's formalize that. What are the groups and teams that we want to form? And we're actually working with people on this group to identify those people that might be good to involve. And then from there, we're going to get on to what you described. So great question, and you're just really presaging the work that this group is going to be doing.
Anyone else? Thank you, gentlemen, for that great presentation.
Thank you.
Item N, request to approve amended resolution number 2021-57, adopting new ward boundaries based upon results of the 2020 census and state-adopted redistricting maps, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you. The next two items are actually related, and they both tie to the redistricting. You know, we went through this once about, I think, 4 to 6 weeks ago, where we had to change the ward boundaries and that had the maps redrawn because of what's going down in Madison. We had another curveball thrown at us, and that was related to a state Supreme Court decision. Fortunately for us, we didn't have to make a lot of changes. David Bueller, our GIS coordinator, who does an outstanding job, was able to look at it and figure out that really only minor changes needed to be made to a few of the wards in order to comply with the state's expectations. And as a result of that, you have on your table tonight a color-coded map that shows what the new district and voting wards would be for the city. But if you were comparing that to the one that was approved just a few weeks ago, you'd see rather limited changes, not really affecting a whole lot in terms of the voting public. So with that in mind, I would recommend approval of resolution number 2021, amended resolution number 2021-57.
Motion by Fire, second by O'Reilly. Any discussion? Seeing none, Amy will do a roll call.
Fire?
Yes.
Paschal?
Yes.
Tompkins?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yeah.
Witzel?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Spiros?
Yes.
O'Reilly?
Yes.
Endler?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item O, first reading of ordinance number 1472, amending section 3-10 of the City of Marshfield Municipal Code pertaining to aldermanic districts and aldermanic district boundaries, presented by Steve Barg, City Administrator.
Thank you. As I said, this is related to the last item, and we need to make the modification in section 3 of the city code anytime we adjust the ward or district boundaries, which is what we're doing tonight, what you just did with that resolution, and to confirm that. Normally with an ordinance, we have 2 readings. This would just be the first reading. I'm asking you to consider suspending the rules and approving the ordinance tonight. The note that we got from the state of Wisconsin asking us to do the modifications is looking for us to get this done later in the month. It would be helpful if we can get finality on this tonight and move it forward. So the recommendation is to suspend the rules and adopt, or approve actually, ordinance 1472.
Motion by Fire, seconded by Wagner. Any discussion?
Point of order, if I could. Are we voting on, are we going to have to take 2 separate votes? Yeah, so the first one is only to suspend the rules. And that takes a 2/3 vote, I take it? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
First motion to suspend the rules and approve ordinance number 1472. Again,
The first one is to suspend the rule.
okay. Okay, there's no comma. To suspend the rules.
Fire? Paschal?
Yes.
Tompkins?
Yes.
Varsho?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Witzel?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Spiros?
Yes.
O'Reilly?
Yes.
Endler?
Yes.
Now to approve the ordinance number 1472. Motion by Wagner, second by Witzel. Any discussion? Amy, roll call.
Fire?
Yes.
Paschal?
Yes.
Tompkins?
Yes.
Varsho?
Yes.
Wagner? Witzel?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Spiros?
Yes.
O'Reilly?
Yes.
Endler?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, request to approve resolution number 2022-07, revised final resolution in the matter of improvement project number 312239 on North Broadway Avenue, presented by Tom Turchi, City Engineer.
Thank you. This final resolution is to expand it, excuse me, the assessment district on the Broadway Street project. our Blodgett Street project up Broadway. We had 2 parcels that actually had a sewer laterals that ran through an adjacent property down to Broadway, and they did receive some improvements with this project. So this is just amending the assessment district so they can receive the assessments for their portion of it. So I'd recommend approval of final resolution 2022-07.
Motion by Paschal, second by Barshall. Any discussion? Seeing none, Amy, roll call.
Fire, Paschal,
Yes.
Tompkins,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Spiros,
Yes.
O'Reilly,
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you. Request to appoint Jessica Schifferl to the position of city clerk and to authorize refilling the vacant position of deputy city clerk, presented by Steve Barg, city administrator.
Thank you. Well, we gave Deb Hall a nice send-off at our last meeting, and she was very grateful for that. She has now moved on, and Jessica Schifferl, who you appointed to be the acting city clerk, is in charge. We did take applications for a full-time city clerk position, and we narrowed the field down to the top 3 candidates. On May 3rd, a search team comprised of 3 elected officials on this body, the mayor, along with council members Wagner and Spiros, and 3 staff members, interviewed those 3 candidates. The recommendation that they've made is to select acting city clerk Jessica Schifferl as the new city clerk. Jessica's done a wonderful job as deputy city clerk. She's been doing the job for about 3.5 years. During that time, she's also been working to obtain her Wisconsin certified municipal clerk certification, expects to be able to graduate from the Institute in this fall, which is a great accomplishment for her. So the reason we come to you tonight, and for those of you who haven't been through this before, called out by policy, whenever we have a department head level position, the council must be the one to be the appointing body ultimately for that individual. So that's why we're here tonight and have this on the agenda. So on behalf of the search team, I would recommend council approval of appointing Jessica Schifferl to the position of city clerk and authorizing us to move forward with the refilling of the vacant deputy city clerk position.
Motion by Witzel, second by Fisher. Any discussion? Seeing none, Amy, would you do roll call, please?
Fire,
Yes.
Paschal,
Yes.
Tompkins,
Yes.
Barshall,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yeah.
Witzel.
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Spiros,
Yes.
O'Reilly,
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. And authorizing refilling the vacant position for deputy city clerk.
It's one more.
There's all one motion, I think.
Okay.
Was that the motion?
So that's
That's all been taken care of.
Okay, great, thank you. Item R, request and authorize solicitation of proposals for banking services using a joint RFP with Marshfield Utilities, presented by Steve Bark, City Administrator.
Thank you. And again, just a brief introduction. I know we talk about this from time to time, but certain services that the city procures, like assessing, auditing, banking, financial advising, those kind of things, there's no requirement that we bid it out on any particular schedule, but it's always good practice to go out and see who's out there in the field, what they offer, what their services are, what they charge, those types of things. So what the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee authorized us to do back in March was to work with Marshfield Utilities, who we've done this jointly with in the past, and come up with an updated request for proposal to send out seeking qualified vendor proposals for banking services. What you have in front of you tonight is that product that came from working together between utility staff and city staff. We did make some modifications. The reason why we felt it was worthwhile to go through this, even though we just did it 3 years ago, was because the banking environment is really rapidly changing with the inflation and what's going on in the market. Interest rates, fees, and those kind of things are adjusting. We felt it was good to see what's out there in terms of local banks. So our recommendation is that council give its approval of the proposed RFP to send out to qualified vendors to make proposals on our banking services, and we would bring the results to you next month.
Motion by O'Reilly, second by Handler. Any discussion? Wagner?
We get charged for transferring funds. I mean, I assume that our excess funds are placed in the state fund for investment fund. I understand that's the name of it. I would appreciate your help a little bit on that. I need to clarify something.
That is correct. Excess funds are transferred into the investment pool fund at the state.
one of the things that I saw in the RFP that I was questioning was that we get actually charged for those EFTs out to, back and forth, back out of the excess funds and back into the excess funds. And I see that that applies also to the utility.
Correct.
So there are, is it customary to charge fees like that? I mean, we're paying for it, we're already paying them money for the honor of being in their bank.
So those fees are like $5 and $10 per transfer. They're not significant, but those fees are incurred.
Not unless either the utility or the city has a lot of investment activity going on, is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Well, it's not a significant amount unless they have
Correct.
a tremendous amount of, like the utility might have a tremendous amount of money going back and forth, I think.
Yes.
Okay. So it is not a significant fund and you're not worried about that. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Amy, would you take a roll call, please?
We've,
There was a motion, was there not,
mhm.
to
approve the request.
authorize the RFP?
Yes. O'Reilly
O'Reilly
and
and
Handler. That's all right.
Fire. Paschal.
Yes.
Tompkins.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Witzel.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Spiros.
Yes.
O'Reilly.
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number S, request to appoint Kim Frederick, 1300 East 27th Street to the Plan Commission to fill the vacant term that ends in April of 2025, presented by me, the mayor. You all have it in your packet, Kim's resume. Hope you've had time to look it over. I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Paschal, second by Fire. Any discussion? Amy, would you take roll call, please?
Fire.
Yes.
Paschal.
Yes.
Tompkins.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Wagner. Witzel.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Spiros.
Yes.
O'Reilly.
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we're going to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Chapter 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchases of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public businesses, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Possible lease of property located in the TIF District number 12 and possible assistance for project located within TIF District number 10. Motion by Witzel, second by Varsho. Any discussion? Roll call.
Fire.
Yes.
Paschal.
Yes.
Tompkins.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Wagner. Witzel.
Yep.
Fisher. Spiros.
Yes.
O'Reilly.
Yes.
Handler.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving to closed session. Boy.